Hello guys, it's me. Welcome back to my channel. Hope you had a great holiday and all that. Today I'm going to be talking to you about all the books that I absolutely loved in 2021. It's going to be my favorite books of the year. Now I know that I'm late as fuck. I would just like to start by saying that I have never had such a wonderful reading year. I think that I really found my taste and identity as a reader. I've become a lot more picky with the books that I reach for, and it shows because I found so many new favorites and I've enjoyed almost everything that I've read. Now obviously there have been a few books that I was kind of like not that great, but most of them were fantastic. I think my average rating on Goodreads was like 4 stars or something, which is really good. I've just developed very good taste, what can I say? Can you imagine though if my taste in men was as good as my exquisite taste in literature? Would be nice, but you know what, moving on. So this is in no particular order except for the top 3, which are 3 books that really stood out for me. Now the top 3, like these 3 books are not going to be like better than one another because they're so different, but yeah, that top 3 are the books that really stood out to me in a very big way. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so first we have The Symposium by Plato. Now, this is a book that, you know, interested me so much that it threw me into an obsession, which is that of ancient Greece. I have not resurfaced since I read this in August. And obviously I've been reading other books on the side, but since I read this, I felt like I had to learn as much about ancient Greece as I possibly could. It's gonna continue, I feel like, because I'm still so into it, which is rare. Usually I have very fleeting obsessions that will last like maybe 2 months. It's been since August. So essentially a symposium is actually just like a dinner party where like men drink and talk about shit, which I feel makes this far less intimidating than it has to be. I feel like a lot of people, when they hear Plato, they're like, ooh, philosophy, like classics, academia. No, but to be very honest with you, like it's very light-hearted. It's just these men, obviously, because, you know, ancient Greece, having this conversation about what it is to love and to be in love. What is love? And to be honest, you don't have to be particularly smart to get it. Now, if you are like me, of like shockingly average intelligence, like not entirely stupid, but like not smart by any stretch of imagination, I would recommend you concentrate for this one. I didn't really know anything before going into it. I just picked it up because I was curious, and even though I did read it in one sitting, I did have to find a time where I was comfortable and I could concentrate so that I wouldn't miss any of the major points that were made in this book, because a lot of the philosophers here will bounce off what the other have said because it's a conversation. So if you miss one thing, you're going to find it a little bit confusing to continue. That being said, it's really not as difficult as you might imagine. It's very short, it's about 60 pages. Yeah, this book has actually changed what I read. Like, I read a lot more about ancient Greece now. So this is why it's made it to the list, and also I found it to be wildly entertaining and interesting. Okay, so next is another ancient Greece-like book, right? So it is Pandora's Jar by Natalie Haynes. This book, I realise that a few of you don't like this, which I kind of get why, but personally I really enjoyed it simply because when I picked this up, I had very limited knowledge of ancient Greek myths, and, you know, getting a kind of very simple and easily accessible view of the main legends of Greek mythology really helped me. And the fact that they were written in such a funny way, Natalie Haynes truly has a great sense of humor, but it is basically a retelling of all the myths where Natalie Haynes explores what it is like for the women of these myths. So we go through Clytemnestra, Jocasta, Medusa, all of these women that we have all vaguely heard of. And, you know, there is a chapter about Medea in there as well. And, you know, when I saw this, I was like, I don't know how excusable Medea's behavior is, Natalie. Which she doesn't say it is, because it's not. If you don't know, I'm not going to tell you because it's a spoiler, I guess. But she has acted fairly appallingly, but it offers very valuable insight on the way that women were treated, their roles within the myths, because they were very important but often overshadowed. So if you don't know a lot about ancient Greek myths, like I didn't at the time where I read this, I would recommend it. If you know a lot you might find yourself a little bit bored. But if you would like to start reading more about ancient Greece and the myths and the legends and all of that stuff, I would absolutely recommend Natalie Haynes. Alright, so next on my list is Heaven by Meiko Kawakami. I don't want to say too much about this. I've spoken about this book briefly in my last video, I think. But basically this tells the story of two middle schoolers who are brutally bullied in school. What I loved about this book is that it is not naive in any way, and Meiko Kawakami took a theme that is, you know, very common in literature. It's definitely not the first or last book that has been written about bullying. There are so many of them, and yet she still manages to surprise the reader, which I think is fantastic, to take something that is so common and then turn it into a book that will be really, really original. So like I said, I don't want to tell you too much about this book because I do want you to go into it in the same way that I did, kind of thinking it was going to be a cute story about friendship and all that stuff, which it is in a way, but I guarantee that it's not necessarily what you expect, especially the ending. Next we have The Interpreter by Suki Kim. I love this book. I read it very early in 2021 and I was like, well, this is a really fucking good start to the year. I'm very happy about this, and I'm surprised that not more people have spoken about it because, wow, absolutely fantastic, at least I think so. This tells the story of a woman who is a Korean immigrant living in New York, and her parents have been murdered. She's kind of lost touch with her sister, who seems to be angry at her for no reason, and she has made a life for herself working as an interpreter for the justice system. And she's also very depressed. Which makes for a very interesting narrative. The narration is what I enjoy the most, I think. Just this book ticked every box for me. It's heavily annotated, as you can see. Absolutely loved it. And if you are interested in kind of a thrillery literary fiction novel, I would absolutely recommend this. We only have a few more books to go, and one that made it so high on my list is The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera. This book, again, I've spoken about it very recently. It's pretentious, it's kind of here to mindfuck you, but to be honest, that's not something I mind. This book made me question so many things. It got me to question my own set of values every time I read an interesting paragraph with philosophical undertones. The philosophical aspect is rather blatant in this book, but there are so many questions about just life and values that would pop into my head as I was reading this. This is one of the most immersive books that I have read, not necessarily because it's a fascinating story, but because it got my gears turning. And when I was reading this, I was at once following a story and also at once kind of thinking and questioning things, and it was a wonderful experience. If you want an overview of the plot, follow the story of Thomas, Sabina and Teresa, who are the main characters, but I feel like, again, the plot is not the primary aspect of this book. This is very much meant to be a philosophical novel, which I loved. I could not read something like this every day, but, you know, once every couple of weeks. It's really refreshing, and yeah, I think that what really stood out for me was the experience of reading it and how invested I was, not only in the story, but also the narrative, the writing, because one of the most beautiful texts that I have ever written is No, I wish. One of the most beautiful texts that I have ever read. Aesthetically, it's wonderful. The prose is fantastic. If you're up for a unique experience, again, highly recommend it. Next on my list is Walk Through Walls by Marina Abramovic. Again, have spoken about this book recently. A lot of my favorite books came at the end of the year, can you tell? So this is a memoir, and it is very impressive, to say the least. So this is the memoir of a Serbian performance artist named Marina, that's her, and she has had a fairly interesting life. She has balls of steel. I don't know how else to put it. Her performances are very extreme, and I picked up this book after learning about some of her performances, and then I found out she wrote a memoir, and I was like, I need to know more about this woman. I have so much admiration and respect for her, I could never do all of the things that she has done, and it's just very inspiring. Now, keep in mind, it takes a special kind of person to do what she does, but still, I think that there are a lot of valuable lessons to be learned, even if you are like a fairly average person, and I would definitely recommend it because I haven't heard anyone really talk about this book. Alright, we're getting to the top 3, which is kind of a top 4, but 2 of them go together. You'll see what I mean. A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Her new book is coming out on the 11th of January, I believe, so I've scheduled a full emotional breakdown for the week to come. Everyone knows about this book. Most people have read it. For those of you who, for some reason, don't know what this is about, this is about getting you to die out of misery and sorrow and trauma. I've made a full review on it, so I'm not going to spend ages talking about it now. I'll link it in the description below if you're interested, but excuse me, but yeah, this book is just trauma, pure trauma in a book. I mean, it takes time for you to get traumatized. As you can see, it's quite big. These next 2 books are on an equal footing, okay? I love both of these 2 just as much, but they are so different that I can't pick a favorite, you know? I just can't. But if I had to, as of now, just have 2 books with me for the rest of my life, it would be these 2, okay? Deadass. Oh shit, I had 3 left, hadn't I? Okay, I'll show this one first. The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. You can tell that I kind of, you know, annotating the living shit out of this one because I loved it so much. This tells the story of a young boy who loses his mother during a terrorist attack. He steals a painting and it will kind of dictate his decision making and how he acts for the rest of his life, and we do follow pretty much the rest of his life. I cannot listen to the music that I had in the background while reading this book without bursting into tears because of how much I loved this book. And hearing the music that I was listening to while reading The Goldfinch just puts me back in the place where I was enjoying a story so much. I don't remember being this invested in anything. I just cared so much about Theo and Boris. Anyway, if you've read the book, you probably agree with me, right? And the book that I wanted to talk about alongside The Goldfinch was her other book, right? The Secret History. I don't have it with me because I lent it to a friend. I am kind of forcing her to read it. I don't think she will, so yeah, I'll try and get it back soon. And I love The Secret History for very different reasons than I love The Goldfinch. The Goldfinch just got me very emotional, and I don't know, this book is just so special to me. I do not know how to explain it, but The Secret History is kind of my new Harry Potter. It was just so immersive. I was so captivated by the story, and I read it like 3 times this year just because it became a comfort read. Coming in at number 1, well, number 1 with The Goldfinch is the Iliad by Homer. Again, I spoke about this in my last video, but holy shit, reading this was such an experience because for so long I was so intimidated by the Iliad, and I got into the classics again, obviously, since Plato, and I was like, I need to read the Iliad for real, because for those of you who have been here for a while, you know that for me it was required reading in school, and so I kind of, you know, skim read everything, checked Spark Notes, passed my exam, and that was the end of it. And I am truly so grateful to have picked this up because I just enjoyed it so much. It was so entertaining. It tells the story of the Battle of Troy, as we're all aware, and I thought that the war was going to be a bit too much for me, but I loved it. I felt like I was reading like Game of Thrones or some shit, just with funnier characters, because this shit is so funny. I don't know if you realize how fucking funny Homer is, but I just loved the interactions between the gods who get involved in the war because they're bored. If you're curious, my favorite character to read about was absolutely Hera. What a bitch. So problematic, but definitely my favorite out of all of the Olympian gods. I know how problematic she is. Okay, don't come at me. If you are intimidated, I will link a channel below. Her name is Erica, and she runs a channel called Moan Inc. And she is wildly underrated, and she basically just is an educational channel about the classics. She's super funny. Her videos are extremely informative, and she posts very regularly. I'll probably like try and shout her out more when I talk about the Iliad in my next video, but yeah, please go check her out and then tell her I sent you, because that way she'll know I exist. But yeah, if you are intimidated, I'll link a channel, that will playlist of the Iliad that will be very helpful to you, and then you will probably be ready to jump into this intimidating classic and boast about it to other people. You'll have read the Iliad and you'll be able to shit on the movie Troy like all classicists. Anyway,